To demonstrate stats, so suffixes, prefixes, implicits, stuff like that, I have taken and bought a few items from the vendor, which I have used the transmutation on, and just to show the difference, really. So this is the first one. It's just a chess piece. Doesn't have an implicit on it, and I'm going to show the implicit first. I'm going to use a website to show the prefix and suffixes. So this is the first item. It doesn't have an implicit, as you can see if you're familiar with that stuff. The two other items here have an implicit. How you can easily see what is an implicit and what is not is if you look at the spell damage here. So the increase in spell damage of 15% is raised a little bit above the other text, and there's also a small line in between. This is always the top stat on the item if there is an implicit, and is always separated by one line, as you can see. And this one also has the implicit of 21 life gained on hit. So yeah, that's basically what an implicit is. Implicit can be changed with a blessed orb, or it can be changed by corrupting it with a Val orb. But of course that can happen a lot of other things than changing the implicit with the Val orb. So yeah. So to demonstrate how really the prefixes and suffixes are and how they work, I'm going to use a website called PoE Suffix. Oh, no, sorry, not PoE Suffix, PoEFX.net. And this is the website. I will link this in the description, and when you first come to it, it looks like this. Let me what? It doesn't? Okay, so let's do this. It looks like this. Okay. And as you can see up here top, they have categories for what items, even maps and strong boxes, flasks, yeah, pretty much everything. So what you do is, let's say we want to make a one-handed axe. Let's take that. So you get to this page and it can be a bit like, oh, what is all this? Okay, so you can see it says prefix, implicit, and suffix. Kind of like random somewhat, but this actually means that everything on this side here is a prefix. Everything on this side here is a suffix, and this thing right here is the implicit. So it doesn't show what implicits different items have, because implicits are purely based on the base item. So a white item, what base it is. So any item, like all the axes have different implicits, more or less. Some axes don't have an implicit and some do. I mean, to have an implicit, you just need to have a specific base type, so a category. This really shows what can happen if you use a Val orb on an axe and you corrupt the implicit. So these are the implicits that can turn out if you Val orb an axe. And you can see the item level required of the item itself, and then what implicit you can actually get. So if you have an item that's item level 1, you can get these right here. You can get one of these. And if you have an item level 20, then you can get one of these. 31 is one of these. 40 and above is one of these. And I should say that when I'm saying that item level 1, yeah, that is true. But item level 20 and item level 31 and so on. So if you have an item level that's 88, you can get one of all of these. I mean, you can still get the item level 1 implicit. It doesn't really matter because that's how it works, and that's the bracket system really. But I will get more into that when we actually talk about prefixes and suffixes. So the next thing I want to talk about is this right here. So mastercraft only. So these are prefixes that the master can craft. And you can see Leo can actually craft these. When Leo is level 3, he can craft 10 to 15 reduced enemy block chance. So this is a PvP thing. But still, he can craft that for you. At level 7, Bacon can craft causes bleeding on hit. stuff like that. These are all prefixes. The same with this over here. These are all suffixes, and you can see what master you need and what level the master needs to be and what the suffix actually do. So yeah, it's pretty simple, really. So the thing that most people are confused about is really what is a prefix and what is a suffix. So in all cases, prefixes and suffixes are just stats, but they are linked in specific ways. So prefix, if a prefix, so this added flat physical, which is called usually this one right here, this will always be a prefix, no matter what item you find it on. It will always be a prefix. The same with dexterity and strength and intelligence will always be a suffix. The same with resistances will always be a suffix. So, and the crit chance and the crit multiplier will also always be a suffix. So these are some kind of things you can look out for, and the same with these increase to socket gem levels. Are also these are prefixes, and the added damage is usually a prefix. So that is one way to look at it. But let's look at added flat physical and what you can actually get from this on an axe. So this is a prefix, and you can see here it's local minimum added physical damage. The minimum thing just means that it's on the weapon. It doesn't apply to your character itself, like globally. Something that would apply globally would be something like increased maximum energy shield, which would apply to the skill tree itself as well, and all your items. So it will, and it kind of works like a node on the skill tree or the passive tree. But how this works is this is just added to your weapon, the axe in this case, and you can see item level 2 axe here will get one of these. So it will get the glinting. That is the highest you can actually roll. And as you can see here, it says 1 and 2 to 3. So how this works is that you will always you have an upper and a lower bracket. It might be easier to show with the item level 77 here, but let's do it with this one first. So it will always be from 1, and then you have the little line, and then it will be 2 or 3. So you can have the best roll is 1 to 3, basically. So if you look at this down here, this is easier to show with because it's just easier. So the lower bracket, or the lower end of the these are not brackets. The lower end of the roll here, of the flaring roll, is 19. The high end of the low end is 25. Then you have 38 to 45. So to get the lowest roll here, you would need to get 19 to 38. To get the highest roll, you would need to get 25 to 45. And anything in between is in between. And if you get something in between, or even the lowest or the highest roll, the item itself will get this little tag on it where it says flaring in the name. So yeah, the brackets, I think this is the most confusing for most people. So if you have a divine orb that can reroll the brackets of your stats on an item. So it takes all the stats on an item, so all the prefixes and all the suffixes, and it re-rolls them, which is super good, because then you can just re-roll your item all the time and then you can get the best item. No, that's not how it works, because it's still made up in brackets. So the brackets are not changed by the divine orb. What is changed is the stats within the bracket, and this is one bracket. So if you have this one, you cannot get any of the other ones with the divine orb. You can only get in between this bracket. So you can actually only change the 2 or to a 2 or a 3. That is your only option. Of course, if you have something like this, then you have a little more room to maneuver, but you cannot get a bracket that is higher. So you can, if you have razor sharp right here, you cannot get tempered. You cannot get flaring. You cannot get honed or glinting or anything else. You can only get something in that bracket, and that is the same for all of the stats. So all the prefixes and all the suffixes, this is how it works. Also with the implicit, but the implicit usually only has one bracket. So yeah, So this bacon here, where you see it says bacon level 2 and bacon level 4, this just means it's a help to people who are crafting. So if you have bacon level 4, for instance, you might want to get something above this. So above this, these stats right here, because if you don't, you can always just go to bacon and get it crafted on. And that might actually be cheaper, and it's so you want something higher than that. Usually people go for one of these two brackets. Of course, people go for this one, but some people settle for this one. So yeah, but that is basically how the bracket system works. And it's very important to remember, because something like fire resistance, for instance, which is a suffix. So if you have an item with 3 resistance on it, so let's say you have a really nice armor with 3 resistances on it, and you want to like divine it so you can get even better resistance. So what you need to keep in mind is that a Chaos Orb rerolls the stats. So if you have fire resistance, then it can be changed into anything. But a Divine Orb doesn't reroll the stat itself. So if you have fire resistance, you keep fire resistance, but it rerolls the numbers. But it only rerolls them within this item level bracket. So if you have if it already in the beginning rolled an item level 60 bracket, then it can only roll from 36 to 41 fire resistance. It cannot roll 42 all of a sudden. It cannot roll 29. But that is something to keep in mind. That is why if you have an item with, let's say you crafted a 72 item or found one with 2 really good two resistances in the 40s, which is really good, and then the third resistance is like 18 or something, then you can't just divine it to hope that the last resistance will also at some point come up in the 40s. It doesn't work. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. And that's basically what I wanted to talk about. If you want to learn like the specific, so what is a prefix and what is a suffix, then I suggest just playing with this tab open, and whenever you find something and you're in doubt, then look at it. I mean, a normal item can't have any. It can only have an implicit. A magical item can have 1 prefix and 1 suffix. A rare item can have 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes. And a unique item is a bit weird. They can have different things. It's usually around the same as a rare, but I mean there are creative freedom within the unique community apparently. So you can pretty much make whatever you want. Yeah. So that is basically it. I mean, I will leave a link to PoE affix in the description, and I will also leave a link to this right here, which is all the prefixes that you can actually get on items, and you can see all the brackets here, and you can see everything. The other side there is of the PoE affix is more for crafting in general. So if you want to see for a specific item, this is for all the items. It doesn't say what items can have it and what items can't have it. It just tells you the actual numbers. So I suggest using this one, but if you want the more raw data, then it's available. And I'll also leave that in the description. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope this helped, and if it didn't, let me know, because I really want to help you with this one.